going on, guys? JonJonTheWise here, and I got another Cyberpunk video for you guys. This time we're going to be breaking down each role in Cyberpunk Red, and I know I've done some videos on this on the past. You guys can check it out in the playlist that I have for the role breakdowns, but I wanted to make one big mega video for all the changes that have happened for the roles in Cyberpunk Red. A lot of the stuff is less ambiguous. There's a lot more mechanic changes, and there's things that are different about the roles that I want to get into. Make sure you guys use the timestamps below. I will have it in the description, and it'll be on the search bar that you are using to scroll with into the video, and I will be breaking down each role. So you can go down to whatever role that you want to make your character in or that you want more information on. You can go straight to it and get my insight on that. All right? Well, before we get into that, make sure you guys join our Discord community. The link will be in the description below. It is a community made for Cyberpunk Red 2020 fans, and we even talk other tabletop games, and I'm sure we'll even talk about Cyberpunk 2077 when it comes out. And make sure you guys subscribe to my podcast, Tabletop Cyberpunk. By the time you see this video, I may have already had... No, I'm going to save it just in case you didn't see it. But I've had some really amazing guests, and I have some more on the way. So you guys definitely want to check that out. I talk about Cyberpunk. I break things down. I talk about my past games. And lately, I've been having really awesome guests on. So make sure you're subscribed to Tabletop Cyberpunk so you can get more Cyberpunk stuff. Like and subscribe. Follow me on social media at JonJonTheWise. And let's just get straight into the video. So each role in Cyberpunk plays a very important part of the story and important part of the world. They all do their own separate things, they do specific things, and in Red, they went through each role and made sure that they got the love and care for all their abilities and the things they can do. No longer are you left guessing exactly how you're supposed to be playing your Netrunner, your solo, your Medtech. All of it is laid out for you. You know your strengths, and you can patch up your weaknesses, and you can even create whatever kind of character you want. Unlike in 2020, where they would give you career skills, these are basically skills that every solo, Netrunner, etc. would have before character creation. In Red, instead, every role has these basic skills that they call generic skills or general skills. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but the basic idea is that everybody knows these skills no matter what kind of character they're making. And you can see that as kind of like a career skill kind of thing, but what that really does is makes sure that you don't have to waste any points on stuff like stealth or language or local expert, stuff that your character would need for it to make sense in the story, but not something that will take over the entire character sheet. They leave you with a lot of room for creativity. You can go through all of the different skills. You can pick anything that you want. A solo and a Netrunner can have the exact same skills and still be unique because of their special role ability. So first up, let's talk about the Rockerboy, one of the most unique parts of Cyberpunk and one of the most unique roles in Cyberpunk. So basically, the Rockerboy is out there trying to inspire people. They're out there using their art, whether it's music or whatever thing that you can come up with. They really leave it up to you. But basically, you are using your art, your expression to reach people, to reach fans, to make yourself notorious, infamous, whatever you want to call it, so you can change things that are going on around you. With this, you can change campaigns, you can change the plot, you can drive the plot, you can start a riot. I mean, there's so many things a Rockerboy can do by touching hearts and minds with their art. You're going to be having enemies like corporations, other gangs, other Rockerboys, local government. I mean, just be ready for the enemies because it's going to be a long, long list, especially if you're out there putting your name out there, letting people know who you are, trying to get people to join you in your cause. All right, so first off, let's talk about charismatic impact. That is your role ability. It's your ability to influence fans with your personality, and the game master determines if someone you meet is already a fan. And by that, you can also convert people into becoming fans. You take your charismatic impact, you combine it with a D10, and whether they're a single person, a small group, or a huge group, there's a different difficulty value, and you'll be able to get them to do something according to what the book says. It's all in accordance to what rank you have in your special ability. That's how much power and influence you have as a Rockerboy. Now, if you fail, these people are not your fans and won't do any of your favors. But if you pass, then they'll do you a favor within your GM's discretion and also keeping your rank in mind. As a rocker boy, I recommend that you take these two stats and make them your important stats, your priority. It should be number 1, cool, and number 2, empathy. These are two stats that you'll be using a lot because you're interacting people, you're doing a lot of social things, and that's when we'll go to our recommended skills. I recommend that you go for the social skills, performance skills, and body skills. The reason I chose body skills is because you're going to be doing things to your body that you want to take care of, like drugs, substances, putting yourselves in a bad situation. There's things that you're going to be doing as a rocker boy that other people would not dare to do. But number 1 above all is you got to be able to perform and you got to be a people person. All right, next, let's talk about the solo. The solo is the professional combatant of the dark future. They're the hitman, the bodyguard, security, mercenaries, military, I mean, you name it. These are the guys that shoot guns, slash, jump, flip, choke people out. They're the ones that put fear into the hearts of their enemies. They're hunters. They're living weapons. It's one of the most popular roles in Cyberpunk for this exact reason, is because you get to live that fantasy, that John Wick fantasy of going around killing everybody. So their role ability is called combat awareness. So basically before combat, during combat, or out of combat, you can be able to use your role ability rank number within various categories of abilities. Some of them cost more points, some of them cost less. It's really up to you according to what situation you're in. The idea is the solo has a set of skills, and their set of skills can get them to do the things that they need to do. They can focus on those skills at specific points in time, and for game balance, there's specific rules on exactly when you can use it, what the risk is, and blah, blah, blah. All right, so the first one we'll talk about is damage deflection, which reduces damage taken from you. The second is fumble recovery, which ignores critical failures like your gun jamming if you're using a poor quality weapon, or whatever your game master decides is a poor quality weapon. You also have initiative reaction, which gives you +1 to initiative per rank point used. Now this is a big deal because as we all know, the first person to act in combat in Cyberpunk is usually the most important. They dictate exactly how this fight is going to go. They dictate who the weakest combatant is going to be from the damage that they can do. So if you can act first before anybody else, you can make sure that the battlefield is to your advantage and things that are going on are to your advantage. Next, we have precision attack, which gives you greater accuracy to your attacks. Spot weakness, which gives you extra damage per rank point used. And then we have threat detection, which gives you +1 to your perception checks per rank point used. This means that your solo can go around accurately hitting targets harder than they usually do, and making sure that the threats like ambushes and things that are sneaking up on you guys, the solo can be able to break all this stuff down. Now, as you can see in 2020, all of that stuff was kind of jumbled into one thing, which was combat awareness, but or what was it even called? I don't even remember. Was it called combat awareness? Well, I'm not going to go back and check it out. But basically in 2020, it was more of a general skill. And now in Red, there are specific things that you can do as a solo that make them very unique and different. And because of the way the skills are done, you can have a solo that doesn't use guns, like Barry Ruth in my Wise Guys campaign. He only uses melee weapons, and he's been having a really good time with that. All right? Let's go to recommended stats. My number 1 recommended stat is reflex. Number 2 is dexterity. These are interchangeable depending on what kind of character you make, but these are the ones that make sure you hit your target and you hit them hard, you dodge attacks, and you're able to be as nimble as a cat. Number 3, body. Number 4, move. I mean, these are all pretty basic. You want to be beefy, you want to have a lot of health, and you want to be able to get across the battlefield or run away as fast as you can, faster than anybody else out there. Reflex, dexterity, body, move. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, but just wanted to give you guys that. Recommended skills. I would go with ranged weapons as your skills, your ranged weapon skills as your most important. Fighting skills as number 2. Now remember, these are both interchangeable. They're both just as important for each other. Number 3, I would go with awareness skills to coincide with your perception check bonuses that you can have. You want to be able to walk into a room, notice any threats, see anybody that's going to be messing with you. Number 4, we're going to go body skills. Body skills are things that will help you take pain, take a beating, take torture, all the things that you need to be able to continue to fight on. All right, let's move on to the Netrunner. The Netrunner is the hacker of the dark future. They're the one using their cyber deck, various commands to hack systems throughout the world. They are a thorn in the side of every corporation, government entity, or anybody that has an important system with nasty programs designed to keep the Netrunner out. In our campaign, the Netrunner is a vital resource for the players. When they get to a place, they don't know how everything is going, they don't know whose eyes are on them, they don't know how many combatants are on them. The first thing they do is tell the Netrunner, find a node, hack into it, give us some information, and the Netrunner plays such a vital role in Red that I would almost guarantee that you would need a Netrunner for all of your campaigns. Not guarantee, I mean, that shouldn't be what I say. What I mean is having them is really fun, and there's a lot of cool things that you can do as a game master for your Netrunner. So the way that Netrunners have changed in Red is actually very significantly, even though it is kind of a subtle change. The change is now that the net is what it is. It's pretty much a walking minefield. This is not a lore video, so I won't go too deep into it. But basically, it's almost impossible to navigate through the net. And now Netrunners, if they want to hack a system, they have to be between 6 meters of a control node, or 8 if they have the upgrade on their cyber deck. And what that basically means is any Netrunner that exists in the time of the Red is a maniac. They used to be able to sit in a panic room in a bathtub with sentry turrets all around them, eating Cheetos and hacking into Arasaka databases. Now they have to go to the Arasaka database. They have to dodge bullets, dodge other Netrunners, dodge turrets. I mean, these guys are the daredevils of the time of the Red, doing things that they normally wouldn't do. I mean, they probably don't have the combat prowess that a solo does, depending on what skills you take. But now you can design a Netrunner that is sneaky, that gets into places they're not supposed to, that's athletic, that has good perception skills. And because of that, in the time of the Red, the Netrunner is this really cool, brave soul that goes around in the meat space finding stuff that they can mess with. Now, let's talk about their role ability, which is Interface. It exclusively allows the Netrunner to hack into any system through a control node. When you are within a control node, you are doing a net run. You can do a number of actions within the net according to how many ranks you have within your role ability. So higher ranks in your ability, the faster you can work on your cyber deck, the more actions you can do on your turn in combat or even outside of combat. It makes you a better net runner, and the more stuff you can do, that means the faster you can get into a database without alerting people, without putting yourself in danger, without dying. Because remember, if you die in the net, you die in real life. Now, while you are in a net run, you have a list of specific commands that you can do because you are a net runner. This is specific just to you as a net runner. Everybody else would have to use an electronic security skill check to be able to get into some areas. They won't even be able to get into control nodes. The only person that can get into a control node, manipulate it, and move in that net space is a net runner. So your list of commands are some like jacking in to get into it, jacking out to get out, your backdoor to bypass passwords, cloak to hide all trace of your presence within the net architecture, which is really important because after you guys leave that place, guess what? The corporate net runner is going to come in, find all trace, and find trace of what you have done within the net. There's other stuff that you can ID files, get control of turrets. I mean, the list is pretty long. And as a net runner, you can have like a little cheat sheet with you as you guys are playing the game, so you know all the various things that you can do. Now, I will warn you guys, this is a very advanced role. It doesn't mean that it is super difficult to play or anything like that. It just means that there's a little bit extra nuance to it, stuff that you'll have to remember. But think about what you can do that a solo cannot do. You can take over an entire entire building, turrets, robots, doors, alarm systems, getting IDs to damn people, library searching through databases to find out where the money goes. How did Biotechnica get the funding for the projects that they're doing? Oh, look at that. It looks like it was a senator. Oh, maybe the senator needs to get a visit from the local law enforcement to question them about what's going on here. That's something a solo would have to work a lot harder to do than a Netrunner would do, just jacking into the net. All right. So let me talk to you guys about what I recommend as stats. In Red, interface is not connected to any of your stats. It used to be connected to intelligence in 2020, but they took that away in Red to give you a lot more creativity. Instead, it's just 1d10 plus your interface stat, which is your interface roll ability, which is how you determine whether you are successful in the net and stuff like that. Intelligence and all the other stats have nothing to do with it. This is awesome because as a net runner, it leaves a lot of creativity for what kind of net runner you want to be. You could be like a hand-to-hand martial artist kind of guy that also does net running. I mean, there's so much stuff that you can do. So I'll give you guys my recommended stats on what a net runner should choose as priority. Move is my number one stat. You need to be able to get in and out of cover. You need to be faster than anybody. You need to be able to move through the battlefield faster than anyone because your life is going to be in danger. You're going to be a number one target, especially once you take over those turrets. Number two, intelligence. Intelligence helps you with library databases, figuring out where people work, how they work, how things work. Intelligence, even though it is not connected to your interface stat, it is connected to a lot of skills that can help you being a net runner. Number three, tech. You got to know how things work. My Netrunner in my game also has skills in electronic security because sometimes you can't find a control node to get through the door that you're trying to get through, but you do have that pin pad that you can try to mess with your tech tool and electronic security. And if you put enough into your tech, then you'll be able to do stuff like that. Number four, dexterity. Dexterity is connected to your evasion skill, which is something that you need to evade danger. It is also connected to your stealth skill, which will give you the ability to get past cameras, guards, be quiet, and stuff like that. So move, intelligence, tech, and dexterity. Now let's go on to your recommended skills. The number one I recommend is education skills. There's a bunch of stuff in there like library search that I mentioned before that is very, very helpful. Number two is technique skills, stuff like electronic security or maybe even first aid. If you're not a main combatant, you can be somebody that goes around helping out your party members if you don't have a medtech as a part of your party. All right, now let's move on to my second favorite role in Cyberpunk. Number one is the Netrunner. Number two is the tech. Not in any order. I mean, either one of them is interchangeable to me. The tech is a vital part of Cyberpunk Red. In 2020, they had a very general skill called jury rig, which pretty much meant that they could find some kind of machinery, put it together, and manipulate it in whatever way that they want. And basically, they are the ultimate cyberpunk handyman. Well, in Red, there's a lot more nuance to them. Yeah, they can still do that. They can still do those things. But basically, what Artal Saurian has done with the tech is they have created a role that is able to create anything in the game. They can upgrade any weapon. They can create any weapon. They can fabricate anything. They basically gave you the keys to the castle with the tech. And they said, do whatever you want. Here are our guidelines. Here's how you can do things to keep it balanced within our game. But just be warned, you could still break the game even with our guidelines. And I love that they gave us the ability to be able to do something like that, because as GMs, we all homebrew for our games, we all invent stuff, and if there's something that they missed in the book, then we always think about, well, what would that do to our game if we introduced X or Y to our game? Will it break the game? Will it ruin it? Well, they give you great guidelines on how you can do it on your own. All right, let's talk about the tech's role ability, which is called Maker. Using this ability, the tech can improve, fix, modify, make, or invent new items such as cars, guns, cyberware, gear. I mean, you name it. Anything under the sun that can be made, the tech can do it. Each rank in Maker gives you 1 rank to put into 2 specialties. So you basically split it into 2 different points into these different categories. Number 1 is field expertise, which is a lot like jury rig. You temporarily repair an item for 10 minutes per rank. It's good for fast repairs on the spot of something that broke. And I mean, you guys can think of different things. Upgrade expertise, improve an item in a unique way. And some of these improvements are insane. They give you a list of things that you can do. The only things that you can't do, per James Hutt, the game designer, is increase the rate of fire of a weapon. He said that it is a sin to do that because it really breaks the game if you do that. But other than that, I mean, almost everything else can be upgraded to have 1 more SP, 1 more die of damage, or whatever you can come up with. It's up to your GM's discretion. Number 3, fabrication expertise. This is amazing. I mean, you can make the item that in the next category, which is called invention expertise, can basically break the game if you're not careful with it. So the idea is you invent something, you sit there with your game master, you guys come up with schematics, you go with the guidelines that are in the book, and you decide, all right, that's the thing I want to make. I want to make a flamethrower guitar that has a bladed axe at the end of it. All right, so what do we need? We need a flamethrower, we need a guitar, we need an axe, right? Let's put them together. What do you get? Fabrication. You fabricate it. You make a prototype weapon. You make a prototype of the item with fabrication, and all together, putting everything together, the tech is able to invent a brand new item, have it work within the game, have it not break the game, and you know exactly what tools you need, what materials you need, and how much it's going to cost. So, I mean, I know it sounds too good to be true, but I promise you that's exactly what it is. The time it takes to work on an item is also listed in a very handy chart within the book. The chart also lists the difficulty values that the tech will need to surpass to make this item. So like I said earlier, I'm telling you, the tech can make anything in the game, and the book tells you exactly how to do it. So let's move on to recommended stats. Number 1, I would say tech. I mean, obviously, no brainer. You're a techie, take the tech stat. Number 2 is luck. What? I thought that was a dumb stat. No, it's not a dumb stat. Luck is very, very powerful in red, especially with called shots being a -8 to hit. And because if you take all these expensive materials as a tech and you put them together trying to make this item, if you fail, that's a really expensive failure. Failing is not an option as a techie. So throwing luck points into your roll to determine if you have created the item is very, very useful. Number 3, dexterity. I think as any role in the game, you want to be able to evade, be able to move. Even though a techie is not really meant to be a combatant, at least you're giving yourself some kind of upper hand to be able to dodge attacks and move around and to be stealthy while you're in combat. Now let's move on to recommended skills. Obviously, technique skills is my number 1 recommendation, no brainer. Number 2, awareness skills. There's a lot of good awareness skills that can help you out as a techie to figure out what kind of materials you need, to figure out what materials something is made out of. And number 3, control skills. Control skills help you drive, they help you move things. And because you are able to move a land vehicle or drive a land vehicle or an AV, you are also playing a vital role within the group if you do not have a Nomad with you. All right, let's move on to the Medtech. The Medtech is amazing in red. In 2020, the tech and Medtech were kind of lumped into one role with kind of variation on how they are. But in red, it's a fully fleshed out role. It has its own special abilities, and it has its own unique way of doing things in the time of the red. So anyone can stabilize someone who is within a death state, which means that they're rolling to see whether their character dies, and they've gone down to 0 HP. But only the Medtech can perform surgery, operate cryosystems, and develop pharmaceuticals. So these are things that other people cannot do. I mean, they absolutely cannot do it. The Medtech is the only one that can be able to do these things that are actually really hard to find in red because of the prevalence of Ripper docs and all the things that are going out there. the way things changed. Night City got nuked. I mean, so many things have changed. Now you need somebody like a Medtech, right? They play a vital part of any cyberpunk community as they piece victims of the violence together. The number one thing I always tell people about the Medtech is you might think that you don't need them within their party until that time arises where you do need them within your party. They can heal critical injuries, they can help you get through it, they can stabilize you, and they can save characters from death if they're there and they're able to get there in time. So let's talk about their role ability. The role ability is called Medicine. With this ability, the Medtech has access to 3 specific medicinal categories that your rank points can be divided into. The first one is called Surgery. It's the exclusive ability that allows the Medtech to treat critical injuries and to implant cyberware. No one else can do this, like I said before. Critical injuries are a big part of Cyberpunk Red. There's something that can happen, and it's a snowball effect. The more that happens, it gives you debuffs to your stats. It's nasty. And you cannot make them go away unless you have a Medtech with you that can do surgery on you, right? Next is medical tech, and this is kind of broken up into subcategories. It's the ability to operate medical machinery, such as cryosystems, or to fabricate pharmaceutical medicine. So these are not street drugs. Street drugs have a negative side effect to them. Pharmaceuticals are drugs that have no negative side effect to them. They only have positive buffs and positive effects to them. Only Medtechs can administer these drugs using an action. So let's talk about pharmaceuticals. I won't get into exactly all the things you can do, but here's one that I love, which is called Speed Heal. It immediately heals the user for their body plus will stat once per day. Previously, we did not have some way to heal characters in Cyberpunk 2020. It is the dark future. It's a gritty game. It's supposed to be lethal. If you want to recover from your injuries, it's going to take days and weeks. That's still true for Red, but they've given us a little bit of a lifeline to be able to put you back into the fight. Once per day, the Medtech can give you this speed heal and be able to heal you for your body plus will stat. All right? On top of that, there's cool stuff like antibiotics, stim, and surge. They all have their own things that they can do. I recommend that you check them through the book, but as I said, they have 0 negative side effects. They can only help you. All right. The other subcategory in medical tech is cryosystem operations. Cryosystems put users in a stasis that halts their death state and begins to heal them in an accelerated way. And each rank point allows you to operate cryosystems in an increasingly proficient way. The more points you put into it, the more access you have to operate, repair, and manage cryo systems. These cryo systems freeze whatever state that you are in. If you are about to die, if some kind of character or NPC or whatever you want to call it is about to die, the only person that can halt all danger is the Medtech. They put them in these cryostasis chambers. So there's even ones that are like in a kind of like a body bag that you can carry with you that are a mobile one. You have access to clinical ones. If you go to a clinic, you show them your credentials, they'll let you use theirs. And basically what you can do is cheat death as a Medtech, right? Now, let's talk about recommended stats. So, obviously, number 1 is going to be tech. You're going to be doing first aid. You're going to be doing surgery, medicine. All that kind of stuff has to do with your technical knowledge. And tech is going to be very important. Number 2, luck. There are some things that you cannot spend your luck points on. I think it is stated within the book if you cannot use your luck points on some things. But there's other things that they are not stated in. Like, I believe installing cyberware and stuff like that. I'd have to double check. That's why I highly recommend that you guys have the book with you as well. But luck, just like the tech that we talked about previously, is really important to make sure that you do not fail and you do not lose party members because of a failure on the dice roll, right? Number 3 is will. There's a lot of resist torture drugs. There's a lot of things that you can do with your will skills that will be very, very useful as a medtech. You need to be able to be there, to have a steady mind and be able to move on and help your party members and not be the weakest link. Recommended skills, technique skills, no brainer. You're a medtech. Tech is in your name. You need technique skills. Number 2, awareness skills. There's a lot of good skills in that category that can help you as a medtech to make sure that you're aware of all the dangers around you, aware of the things that you need, and aware of the environment where you can save someone or help somebody. All right, let's move on to the media. One of those advanced roles, as I've told people, but the media is the lifeline for information in the dark future. And while the Rockerboy is someone that uses their arts to inspire, the media makes sure that they can inform people. They're out there, they're the investigators. They find information and work off of rumors to be able to drive the plot, move the plot, manipulate the plot, and to be able to move things around in their favor. Medias are always looking for the hidden truths, and they live their life reading between the lines. They use their influence, cunning, and wit to blast out their own narrative using various technologies like the CityNet, pirate radio broadcasts, scream sheets, or any other medium that reaches people. With Ziggurat and Zchat, Talsorian has introduced this new type with the Garden, where it's like a social media platform. It's ripe for medias to be involved within it, and that's going to be your playground as a media. And because of your volatile nature of always trying to find the truth or uncovering things that you're not supposed to uncover, your list of enemies is large. And on top of that, you're going to have a lot of allies that want to make sure you're safe because you're finding out information for them that they otherwise couldn't be able to find on their own. All right? Like I said, this is an advanced role that will need close work with your game master because it affects the very nature of the created universe that your game master has. Their corporations are not safe. Their government entities are not safe. Nobody is safe from the media's ability to be able to manipulate everything. While other power players are looking for the most powerful gun and most powerful piece of cyberware, the media is trying to mess with all the work that you've done as a game master, in a positive way, of course, but that's basically their job. Their job is to uncover things that you want to keep secret. All right, let's talk about their role ability, which is called credibility. Credibility allows you to convince an audience of your truth, not the actual truth, but your truth, whether it is real or not, and the size of your audience grows with each rank that you have. You will have access to sources and information that others cannot reach, and you are the king or queen of rumors, and you gain information passively. Because of your credibility, people come to you with information. They know that you're the person that can actually produce change with the information that they give you. So let's talk about the first thing about being a media, which is really unique. I've never seen this in any other game. Rumors. So, rumors. Twice per game week, your game master will secretly roll your credibility plus 1d10 and consult a rumor chart to determine what clues they can inform you about. What I mean by rumor chart is there's a chart in the book that pretty much tells the game master, according to their role, what caliber of information that they can inform you about. Any additional rumors that you'll have to find on your own through gameplay is called an active rumor. It's not a passive rumor. So the one before the game that your game master rolls is a rumor that you gained just because you are who you are and you have the credibility you have. People come to you with the information. The other way that you can obtain information is with an active rumor, which is as a media, you're using your abilities within game time and within playing the game. You go around looking for the information you need, and that's a different part of the chart that the game master looks at. Okay? So, what do you do with that rumor? You have a bunch of rumors. People have come to you, whether they're passive or active. You publish a story or you publish a scoop. According to your rank, the following aspects of your role are determined. You get access to sources, those that you can get in touch with to gain information. You have your audience, how many people you can reach, your believability. Using your rank and a dice roll, you can determine how believable your story is going to be. And with that, you find verifiable evidence. And according to the book, you find some kind of verifiable evidence, and because of that, you're able to enact big changes within the world. One piece gives you a +1 to your roll, 4 pieces gives you a +2 to your roll. All right. Now, this is one of those things that luck cannot play a factor. You cannot use your luck points in trying to determine whether you succeed or fail in this kind of stuff. So you can't use it. And I understand why, because like I said, you can really mess with the game. You take this information that you have and you publish it with using your sources, your audience, and your believability. You enact change with your story. The last part of publishing your story is impact. How much change your story can cause according to your rank. The book will tell you exactly how much change you can make. It doesn't matter how much information you have. If your credibility is not high enough, people will simply just not believe you and will not believe your story. But there will be enough people to believe you to enact some kind of change according to how much credibility you have. So that's a stat. That's an ability that you want to definitely up and put improvement points into, because the more you do, the more people believe you, and the more change you can make within your created universe. All right. Recommended stats for the media will be int for intelligence. There's a lot of cool skills with that. Obviously, you got to be able to do library searches. You got to be able to do all kinds of cool things that intelligence will help you. Empathy, you got to talk to people, you got to ask them questions, you need to use your social skills to talk to them. And cool, you're going to be in situations where if you're not a cool cat, you don't belong, it's going to be known, people will have tight lips, you're not going to find the information you need. But if you're all of a sudden in a booster gang hangout doing synth coke with them, they might be liable to tell you something that you otherwise wouldn't have heard, and cool is going to help you. All right, let's move on to recommended skills. Education skills is number one in my book. That is going to give you all kinds of good stuff that will help you with your investigations. Social skills to talk with people, and technique skills to be able to navigate your way through technical knowledge of using different parts of technology to aid you in your story. All right, now let's talk about the Exec. The Exec is the new corporate of the time of the Red, and because of the Fourth Corporate War and its consequences, corporations have been reduced to a fraction of their former selves. Basically, only a handful are still very powerful, corporations I mean, but even these corporations are diminished significantly. So if you're playing an Exec, you work for a corporation that is living a life of desperation, trying to stay afloat, trying to maintain control, trying to submit their influence around the world. You have to tread more lightly than ever before. Your ambitions have never changed. You still want to be the boss of your corporation, or you want to start a new one. But your resources are very limited, and there's things that the corporation just cannot provide to you because it's the time of the Red. Things have changed. It's not like it used to be. It's not the glory days. What you do to earn the favor of your corporation and their higher ups is in your hands. Basically, you have your own ulterior motives while you're playing with the players. They know that. You got to try to balance it in a way where your other party members still trust you, they want to help you, but at the same time, they do know that you're thinking about your corporation the entire time. You can play it many different ways. This is another advanced role because of exactly how I said. That can cause a lot of player conflict. Corporations are usually the bad guy in Cyberpunk campaigns, so if you put one within the group, it seems like you're poisoning the well. But there's different ways you can tackle it. You can either do an entirely corporate campaign where everybody works for the corporation and the Exec player is kind of like the leader of them. Or you can do it where they're all edge runner mercenary types doing the things that they do. And the Exec plays a secretive role where they're trying to do things and convince the party to do things the way that they want to, while making it seem like they're not trying to have any ulterior motive or anything like that. I would work with the game master on that sense so you guys can share secret information with each other. And I think it could be really, really fun to be kind of like this snake in the grass ally with your other players, right? Okay, let's talk about the Exec's role ability, which is called teamwork. In 2020, they had something called resources, which pretty much meant anytime they would roll on that special ability, it would determine what kind of cool stuff their corporation would be able to give to them. They got away from that with Red, and that's kind of something that is part of your backstory. If you have certain ranks within your special ability, you get stuff like corporate housing, health insurance, a signing bonus. I mean, these are just normal things that any corporate would get. So obviously the higher rank you are with your exec in their role ability of teamwork, the better health insurance you can get, like trauma team, the better housing you can get, like an actual house and not a storage container, and you get a higher amount of money and stuff for the things that you do, right? But the most important part of the exec that makes them really unique in the time of the red is team members. And depending on your rank, you can hire up to 3 members, 3 being the maximum. You can choose what type of team member you want, but their stats are determined by a chart that you roll on. So basically, the GM controls this NPC, and the likelihood of them following your orders has to do with loyalty. You're a recruiter. That's what you're doing as an exec. You're going around, you're finding the people that you want to work for you, you're recruiting them, the corporation will provide them to you, but you got to make sure that you are being a good boss. You got to tell them they're doing a good job. You got to make sure they don't die. You got to make sure they're taken after. You got to be a good boss, because if their loyalty level falls to such a low point, then they will actively try to betray you, or they just won't listen to what you tell them to do. And once you're in that situation, you've pretty much shot yourself in the foot because you haven't been a people person, all right? Losing a team member that you have recruited to you from the corporation, they will be replaced the next game session, but the new member starts at the lowest loyalty score, and it'll cost the exec some money for the whole process. This new team member comes on, and they're like, why should I listen to this guy? Why should I do anything that this guy says? I mean, the last guy got murdered. Am I next? Your team members have to feel motivated to help you, and their loyalty has everything to do with it. There are charts for gaining loyalty and losing loyalty in the book, and that will determine if your team members are able to follow your instructions. Like I said, it depends how you treat them, and each team member has a set amount of gear, cyberware, and skills. It's like a pre-generated character that you're able to get. The different types of team members are a company bodyguard, that is basically like your own personal solo. Company covert operative, it's an espionage expert, cleans up messes, gets into situations that spies usually get into. Your company driver, you guys don't have a Nomad? Well, the exec has you covered because they have a company driver. You could even have your own Netrunner, and you could even have your own personal tech. We talked about the tech earlier in this video. The tech can make anything in the game. And because you're an exec, you basically get a pocket technician to work with you. But remember, do not take advantage of this person. This is a human being. And if your GM has determined that you are treating them poorly or taking advantage of them, then their loyalty level will begin to slowly drop. And before you know it, they've backstabbed you. It's a very nuanced role, and you have to really think about it before you get deep into it, but the rewards are pretty big. All right, let's talk about recommended stats. Number 1 I would talk about is called empathy. I definitely think empathy is important as you are talking to your various team members to make sure that they feel appreciated and loved. Intelligence, for knowing what kind of situations to put yourself in to be able to fool your party members or fool other people and to manipulate the world around you. Cool, because nobody likes hanging out with a suit that does not know how to act. Make sure you're in your situation, keeping your cool, making sure that people think you're cool or they won't listen to what you have to say. Recommended skills. Social skills, obviously, to talk to your team members and recruiting other people. Education skills, which help you determine exactly what kind of person you need to work with, what kind of things they can do for you. Awareness skills, because it's always important to be aware of your surroundings and know when someone is trying to mess with you or your life is in danger. All right, next up, let's talk about the Lawman. In the time of the red, law and order is really hard to come by. Most police organizations have collapsed and left with diminished force, but the ones that have remained are more diligent than ever. These are the survivors. As long as they have a job, they will maintain order as is required of them, and a lawman comes in handy, and they come in all shapes and sizes. They can be corporate mercenaries, freelancers, guardian gangs, remnants of the police, bounty hunters. I mean, the list is endless. You don't exactly have to be a cop to be a lawman. It's just anybody that enforces the local law. The creativity is up to you and your game master. As your role ability, what you get is called backup. Instead of authority, where in 2020 you walk up to a place, you roll authority, and basically people have to listen to what you have to say or suffer the consequences. Instead, you roll up to a place, you use your backup, and you don't need a special badge or anything because you have 5 guys with guns with you on top of your party members, and that's what the backup pretty much is. When you're in danger, you can call them to your location from the organization that you're affiliated with or allied with in the area, or there might be actually an organization that is set in place and they'll just charge you a certain cost because they had to come and help you out. But backup is armed and armored based on your rank. It's much like how people don't believe you unless you have a certain amount of credibility as a media. If you don't have a certain amount of rank as a lawman, then they're not going to be sending the C-SWAT and full conversion Borgs and drones and AV force filled with cops at your location. They're going to send you 4 guys that are beat cops and tell them, hey, there's something going on over there. All right. So you roll 1d10, and rolling under your rank determines if you're able to call upon backup. Then you roll 1d6, and you find out how many rounds it will take for them to arrive. The higher rank, like as I said, in backup gives you better types of allies that have ascending quality of gear and weaponry according to your rank. So as a cop, or as a lawman, I should say, when you call your backup over, they'll either come with pistols and shotguns, or if you have a higher rank, they'll come with assault rifles and rocket launchers. Now, because of how things are in the time of the Red, cops are really hard to find, the law is really hard to enforce, and because of that, the lawmen are cornered animals and they're more ferocious than ever. They're a lot less forgiving than they were in the years of 2020. In the time of the Red, they know that there's no time to tell somebody to put their hands up. You just got to shoot and ask questions later. And because of that, they are feared across the land as being brutal enforcers of the law. And that's exactly what you can be as a lawman as well. Let's go to your recommended stats. I would basically give your lawman the same kind of stats that I would give a solo, because your job is pretty much going to be the exact kind of job that a solo would do on a more broad sense, maybe a little bit more noble than what a solo would do. But basically, I would go with reflex as your number 1 stat, dexterity as your number 2, shooting guns, hitting people with melee weapons, that's a no-brainer. Number 3, intelligence for awareness checks and stuff like that, being able to detect danger. Body, because you want to have a good amount of health. You want to have a good amount of body to be able to take pain and take punishment and to move on and do your job. Recommended skills, ranged weapon skills, fighting skills, no-brainer. Social skills, you got to deal with people. Remember, you're a lawman. Education skills, you got to know exactly what places you're putting yourself into, what kind of danger you're putting yourself into, and whether you're in over your head. And education is paramount for that kind of stuff. All right. Now, let's move on to the fixer. Fixers are more important than ever before. In 2020, they were able to break the game. In Red, they can still kind of do that, but they play such a vital role in the story, especially if you're getting to stuff like night markets and stuff like that, where you can't get certain items unless you know a fixer. If your party member has a fixer, well, they're the ones that can get you those exotic items that you're not going to be able to find in a store, all right? They facilitate trade, introduce people to each other, and they're the ultimate I know a guy people, right? A decent fixer might be common, but the best fixers are like treasures. No one wants to share them, and everyone wants to protect them. You're the lifeline for many people because they can't survive or do business without you. You have a gift that no one else does, and that's why you are where you are. Whether it's the gift of the gab or the gift of realizing how you can put yourself in the right place at the right time, All those things are things that a fixer can do to make themselves valuable in the time of the red. Remember, we're talking about scarcity, things that you can't find it. A fixer, that's what their life is all about. They're finding the things that people cannot find, right? Role ability. It's called Operator. Operator gives you the ability to navigate the various cultures, black markets, criminal organizations, legal organizations, and anyone else who's got the money for your time. Remember, your time is a service. You are doing a service as a fixer. And if you're a good fixer, you are able to navigate your way throughout the different cultures and people throughout the world of Cyberpunk. All right? Depending on your rank, you have higher quality versions of the following. You have contacts. These are the people you talk to for business. You have your reach, the highest price category of items you can always find. Also gives you the ability to start a night market, which is a sort of pop-up black market. Haggle, the ability to strike a deal. And grease, which is the ability to blend in with other cultures and the people of the streets. All four of those things are super important for a fixer to be able to do their business and to do the things that they do. Remember that everything is a commodity in the time of the red, whether it's security, food, water, shelter, drugs, you name it. As a fixer, as long as it has a price tag, you should be able to obtain it. Let's talk about recommended stats for the fixer. The first one I got on the list is cool. You got to be a cool cat if you're going into these other cultures, if you're going into criminal organizations, and you want to work with them, you got to have a high cool stat. A lot of the skills that you'll be using are in the cool category. Next is empathy. You need empathy to deal with people, to talk to people, to persuade them, to talk to anybody that's out there. You got to be a people person, and empathy is number 2. Number 3, intelligence. A good fixer is aware of their surroundings and is aware if they are in danger. You're going to need those awareness skills with intelligence, and there's some other stuff like library search that can be very helpful as well. Recommended skills, I will go with social skills. It's a no-brainer. You're a fixer. You're going to be dealing with people. You're going to be dealing with people that hate you, that love you. So you need social skills to be able to navigate those waters. Education skills, you got to be aware of where you are, who you're dealing with, the history of the place that you're at, and education skills are going to be able to help you with that. Awareness skills, like I said earlier, you want to be aware of danger. You want to be aware of if you're going to be in danger, and you also got to be aware of potential clients, potential contacts. Awareness skills can help you with that as well. All right, guys, let's talk about the Nomad. The Nomad has evolved to be the most vital faction in the time of the Red, because after the Fourth Corporate War, Nomads were the only ones that people could turn to for help. They have always been self-sufficient and never bought into this illusion of the city life. When the world almost collapsed again, the Nomads were the only ones not surprised. They were also not surprised that everyone came to their doorstep begging for help. After the first collapse, they were the only ones that could see the writing on the wall, and they realized that they needed to be self-sufficient. They can't rely on the government. They can't rely on the police. They need to be their government. They need to be the police. They need to be the ones that provide for themselves. And they decided that that city life of living under a corporation and having an agent or a cell phone or whatever you want to call it, that's all an illusion, because it can be taken away just like that. And guess what happened? It was taken away just like that. And now everybody is picking up the pieces. And it is thanks to the Nomads that in the time of the Red, people are still able to survive. As a Nomad, your family is probably plays a key role in connecting people, governments, corporations, and any other factions together. You are the watchers of the roadways. You're protecting vital shipments of food. You're protecting vital shipments of water. You are the oasis in the wasteland that travelers can rest in safely. And once a shunned part of society, you are finally respected for your greatest ability, which is survival. Let's talk about the Nomad's role ability, Moto. So in 2020, the Nomad's ability was called Family, and basically it worked a lot like how Backup works with the Lawman in Red, is you can call your family members to give you resources to come over and to be able to help you out in whatever situation you're in. They kind of got away from that in Red, and instead you still have your family members. You can call on them sometimes, but whether they'll be available or not is really probably not going to happen. As a lawman, you can call for backup because there is a police force in the area. As a nomad, you're far from home, or you're in a place that is not your home. You might have a few family members with you because you didn't want to travel alone, but most of the time you're kind of on your own. So with the Moto ability, the higher ranks you have in it, you get better vehicles that your family has provided to you with more customization options. And these vehicles, they've been given to you to borrow from your family. And as a starting character, you could get stuff like a regular ground car. You get like a mini AV helicopter kind of thing. And there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do as a nomad in the time of the Red. You can add your Moto rank to the various driving skill checks available in the game. That makes you the ultimate driver in the time of the Red. And in the book, there are various charts per vehicle type that inform you on what type of upgrades are available to your vehicle. These upgrades vary from weaponry and armor to communications and extra compartments and even more. I mean, you're the ultimate smuggler, you're the ultimate driver. Your vehicle can do things that other vehicles cannot. And as we have vehicle combat in Cyberpunk Red, this can play a very vital part in the story because now we know exactly how vehicles move, how they maneuver. You can protect certain parts of the car like your windshield. You can have bulletproof glass. You can have bulletproof tires, no flat tires. I mean, the possibilities are endless as a nomad, and these are things and advantages that you have that other people do not. Remember that as a nomad, you come from a family. Even though the rules do not specify that you can call upon your family members to aid you, I think it's fair to say, and it is assumed, that your family will be there for you in your time of need if they are available. If there's somewhere where you need a place to stay, if you need to get away and hide, you have a haven, you have a sanctuary within your family. They will die for you. They stick together. They watch your back, and that's exactly the nomad way of life. As a nomad, your recommended stats, in my opinion, are reflex. Those are to do with your driving, and it also helps with shooting guns and stuff like that. Your tech, to be able to drive the cars, you can add your nomad rank ability to your driving checks. So that means that you'll almost never fail any of the crazy driving maneuvers that are within the game. Dexterity, to be able to move out of the way, be stealthy, evade. It's good for combat. Intelligence for awareness checks and of the sort. You are a stranger in a foreign land as a nomad. You are in a place that city slickers are usually hanging out in, and you stick out like a sore thumb. It's good to be aware of your surroundings and to have the intelligence to know that you are a target. Okay? Recommended skills, control skills to be able to drive vehicles, drive AVs. Control skills are very important for stuff like that. Technique skills, you'll be using various technologies, moving around with various technologies, so it's good to be able to know how to use them. Awareness skills, because as I said, you stick out as a sore thumb. You need to be able to know who your allies are and where your danger is coming from at all times. All right? Last thing I'm going to talk about here is multi-classing. This is something that they've added in Cyberpunk Red. It's something that we had to homebrew in Cyberpunk 2020, and because people have asked for it so much, Artel Sorian has been gracious enough to add it within the game and to make it a balanced aspect of the game. The way it works is every character starts at rank 4 in their role ability, and from there, you can begin to buy rank points into another role. So you are rank 4 as a nomad, you have a 4 moto, you decide you want to start being a solo, you can begin to use your IP points to go into the solo class. You cannot take a third role until you have advanced the second one to rank 4. So you're at 4 moto as a nomad, you start doing solo, you cannot do another role until you finish at rank 4 with the solo. If you decide you want to do another role on top of that, you can now begin to do it. Otherwise, you just continue going on as a solo or a nomad, whatever special ability you want to start putting your points in. Now, it's important distinction is the world will see you as your most recent obtained role. So to people, you are now a solo. You are no longer considered a nomad because of the set of skills that you have. You are the most recent role. How you will determine that is up to your game master. How you determine that in the story is also up to you and your game master. So keep that in mind. The idea is multi-classing has been put in the game. It's in the book. Is it a perfect system? Maybe, maybe not. The idea is that it doesn't break the game if you decide to do it. All right? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate all the support. I love all the love I'm getting within this community, and I especially love seeing all these new creators coming into this community, making new things, all these new YouTube channels. Just remember that I support everybody that's out there in the YouTube community. I want everybody to succeed because we are all in this together. It's an amazing thing to see. I love Cyberpunk Red. I love the potential that it brings. I cannot wait to see what's in the future, and I cannot wait to see what we can do within this community. All right, guys, thank you very much. We'll see you on the next one. Much appreciated. Goodbye.